when the world, it reminds us of the insanity of the world. So we should be doing a lot of laughter right now, I think, because it is such an insane world, and we just have to realize this is not real. um, so let me just see. I have a joke, and because it's just fun to laugh as much as we can, even though in the reading I know that Swamiji was talking about um, laughing at ourselves and not taking ourselves too seriously. So here we go. There is a group of engineers, and they were having a discussion when one of them said, "Now, what do you think? What do people think was the most important invention of the 20th century?" And actually, when I heard this joke, I've been thinking myself, so what was the most? I mean, we have the airplane, right? Okay, so here goes the joke. Well, the airplane, because that, brought people closer together. The world could, instead of traveling take weeks and months sometimes to travel, the airplane really made the world a lot smaller. So that was the first engineer's response. And the second engineer's response was well, the internet. I mean, you can communicate with someone in an instant, and that certainly made the world a lot smaller too. And the third engineer said, the thermos. And everyone went, "What? The thermos? Why the thermos?" Right? And he said, "Well, you put something cold into it and it stays cold. And you put something hot into it and it stays hot. How does it know the difference?" So that got a laugh out of me. I thought I'd share it with you. I really wish I could be there with you in person, because I can't hear. I can't hear him. It's just a Hollywood Squares thing for me. Okay, so first things first. What does that mean? Well, I think we all know. As devotees, we don't think, "Oh, I've got to have my morning cup of coffee first thing when I wake up." It's, I need to sit and go inward and um, and meditate, worship, seek, serve, love God in that chant we just sang. So that is really for us as spiritual aspirants and truth speakers, God first. And and what is God? That's a good question, because it's different for everyone, and it doesn't just mean meditation and 108 kriyas or whatever. It may be taking a walk in nature, and for me, it's certainly where I feel presence of God. It For instance, the 8 aspects of God, that if you're studying Raja Yoga, maybe you're learning this. But so what are the 8 aspects of God? The 8 manifestations? How but God is manifesting particularly through these aspects, and we have love and light and joy, and let's see if I can remember them: peace, wisdom, and power, and sound, of course, and also calmness. So if you have any experience of any of those aspects, that's you're touching into to God and to higher consciousness. Of course, we worship God in so many ways. In India, of course, you have all the deities, and every religion has their own way of worshiping and feeling and experiencing God. And even people who claim to not be religious or spiritual, I think they have their own experiences of God. So God is a all-encompassing kind of consciousness, and so that's important to remember. If you, especially, we are kind of. I know I am hard on myself. I have so many wonderful people who are inspirations to me in their lives, who I've known for over 42 years since I first moved to Ananda Village, and even not in Ananda Village, but and so I it's not good to compare yourself, because my path and journey has been very different. I have not, raising children, going through pregnancies, and all these kinds of things. It's definitely harder to have the meditation life of a yogi, or someone who is not, burdened by, not burdened, not at all burdened. I'm so grateful for my having had a family, and but you know what I mean. It's you don't have the responsibilities that you do, and so you can devote yourself to that. But most of us have families and have commitments and responsibilities in our lives, and so we just have to keep remembering that that's the dream. That's not the first thing, although it's very important to fulfill our responsibilities in the world. I have a beautiful quote for that. Let's see if I can find it. um, well, maybe I'll find it a little bit later. But basically, just the point being that we have to focus. We have to put our attention and importance where it belongs, and not get things, mixed up, and not realize that. I mean, not be deluded by the world, not be taken by Maya's veil of this is important. It's so important. Now, our emotions and our feelings and our attachments, all these things, are the things that help muck up our spirit and our spiritual goals and everything. So that's again that wonderful chant. Just like a fire in the forest that burns of the forest of delusion, burn up my desires. So, of course, we can use these 8 aspects of God to help encourage us and make the experience stronger. With sound, that's obvious. We put on uplifting music, and joy, not casual joy and unmeaningful laughter and humor, as the affirmation said, but you know, deep joy and fun and laughter that's not a dark side. That's uplifting. Everything is wanted to be moving up. That's the idea. It's up. More we can make every experience upward moving, then the happier we'll be, the more at peace we'll be, the more calm we'll be, the more wisdom and intuition we'll have, the more joy and love in our lives, and peace. So those are very, it's important to remember these like meditation tricks, because we need them. And in the coming months, it's quite possible we may be drawing even more on that kind of inspiration in our everyday lives if things get rough. At the entrance to Hansa Temple, which was the main temple at Ananda Village, used to be the publications building back when I first moved there, but then it became the temple, and it had this, the beautiful soaring roof line. And at the very entrance, it says, the time for knowing God is now. So again, with that, that first things first, focus, put our attention where it is meant to be. Even though we know these things, we still get caught. So that's why I'm saying it again. So there is a story in the autobiography of a yogi of the saint who he was told by one of his visitors or a devotee, but you've given up everything for God, because I think he was a wealthy man. Can't remember exactly the story, but and he knew that he wasn't going to find his happiness in riches. And the saint responded, no, I have given up a few paltry rupees for a life of infinite love and bliss. It is the worldly man who has made the real sacrifice. So and that's worldly, not in the sense that we shouldn't be doing what we all are doing in the world, but it's the way we're doing it and the consciousness behind it. Um, about focus, I found I had a very interesting experience over the last few months. As many of you know, I was on my way from India to California in March, and I landed in Boston, in Brookline, with my dear friend Kathy, and I'm still here. But right after I landed, the airport's shut and everything shut down, and so um, I've been trying to figure out. My life has been a life of I've been based in Italy the last few years. I've done a lot of traveling, traveling within India and also um, to India, within Italy, India, Czechoslovakia, and Serbia, and New Zealand, and Australia, and Scotland, and Holland. Been very blessed, but obviously my life is different now because travel does not seem to be in it. So I was really got, in a sense, I have to say, I don't want to say tormented, but it was a strong process of, well, what do I do now? Here I am in somebody else's, guest room, and do I try to get back to Italy? But then there's COVID, and what's it going to be like there? And should I go to just the whole thing. So my mind, I had to turn it off. I had to work really hard to turn it off, especially during the summer, because I made the decision, okay, I'm staying for the summer. I'll be here for the centennial, and then we'll see what happens in the fall. Maybe things have died down. Well, of course, things we know, we can see that they're rising up again. But anyway, and it was a few weeks ago that I realized what was making my decision so hard, and it was because I was caught with the attachment and the desire to be in Italy with dear family friends, my friends there who are really like family, and I mean, everyone at Ananda is like family, but in this case, I was the grandmother figure or the auntie figure for a little 1-year-old who is very dear to my heart. Her parents are very dear friends. So that was that. When I realized that, and I realized that I needed to pick the thread up, say it's a marionette, and this is about focus. So you have, I'll just kind of explain my metaphor here. With a marionette, you have a lot of different strings, right? And if you pick it by the wrong string, the whole thing looks, wonky. But if you pick it up by the right string, then everything falls into place. So that's also kind of an example of focus. You have to focus on the right string, and then it all falls into place. So I realized I had not been focusing on the right string, and as soon as I did, I had the clarity to realize, oh, it's my heart and my attachments and emotions and desires to be, to have it work one way. And even though I was saying, praying very, very hard, Divine Mother, God, Master, Swamiji, just give me a sign, tell me what to do, and putting a lot of energy and having conversations. And as many of you know, I was like, I'll stay here in Rhode Island if we can get an ashram, and all these things. So for months it seemed like I was in this place until a few weeks ago when it was like, oh, right. Maybe I was even starting to prepare for this talk, and I read that story in one of the explanations of this reading. So when I picked the marionette, when I focused on what I really needed to pay attention to in the next few months, it became clear. And so I am going back to Ananda Village at least, till the spring and summer, and we'll see. I may very well be back here. This is one of my homes, certainly my origin. So anyway, I love I've read that story many times, the explanation about the marionette, but to have such a deep experience of it when I was, my brain was just going over and over again. And one morning I'd wake up, okay, you're going back to Italy. No, you're staying here. Nope, you're going there. It's like I just got very weary of all the voices in my head until I just picked up that one string. So I have a reading from Whispers from Eternity that I want to share with you. And Whispers from Eternity is the book of prayer demands that Yogananda wrote. Beautiful, beautiful poetry and images. And he said, when I'm gone, read my Whispers from Eternity. Eternally through it, I will speak to you. So this one is entitled, I Demand to Return Home. Impediments beware, flee my path. I am homeward bound. Through the long corridors of time, stumbling often into pits of error, then lifted out by thy unseen hand, I have walked painfully, discouraging darkness, barbed wire fences of habit, stony embankments of indolence, mountains of indifference, oceans of unfaithfulness, sirens of sense longing may stand even now in my path, as if to prevent my onward march to thy palace. But a million kingdoms and sextillions of years of unblemished worldly happiness will never tempt me again to turn away from thee. So I think that's a good note to end on. And